Plenary Session 2, Toward a Just and Inclusive Digital Energy Transition, Skills, Sustainability and Social Impact, will explore how Malaysia can align economic growth with equity, upskilling, and long-term social impact. Please join me in welcoming our panelist speakers and moderator to the stage. Panelist speakers and moderator for Plenary 2, you may take the stage. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Ms. Zayana Zaikariah, researcher at the Institute of Strategic and International Studies, ISIS, Malaysia. Ms. Zayana sits in the Climate, Environment and Energy Division. She works on climate resilience, sustainable economic transitions, and environmental policy, particularly within Malaysia and the ASEAN region. She also researches Malaysian disaster risk resilience and adaptability, the sustainability of data centers, and green economic resilience. She has consulted for the Ministry of Natural and Environmental Sustainability, the Environmental Defense Fund, and the US Embassy in KL, among others. Without further ado, let Ms. Zayana, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome to the second plenary and the last one as well for today. Now before we hear what the expert has to say, I'd like to just set the scene slightly. Earlier today we heard about the pace we're moving towards clean energy, all the different alternatives for Malaysia as we develop digital infrastructures, expanding renewable energy to feed the country's AI goals, and ambitious climate targets at the same time. But with these ambitions come equally pressing questions. We hear the term just transition being coined around almost, I think, every day now. But is it truly just as a question, right? So we should not only prioritize technology and economies, but about the people and also the environment around us. So maybe if I could just define it slightly. A just and inclusive transition means making sure that our communities are first not left behind, that the workforce is equipped with the right skills, and sustainability is more than just a box-ticking exercise. So now today we hope to take a glimpse of the reality on the ground with our experts here. Now, I hope to begin the conversation with first introducing the experts we have here today. We'll start with Dr. Hezri. He's a sustainability practitioner and advisor, also former ISIS Malaysia. He currently serves as the Director of Group Sustainability at Bursa, and also a council member of Climate Governance Malaysia. We have here Mr. John Salam next to me. He is the General Manager of Green Energy Solutions at Hasilwan Group, with over 23 years of experience in technology, renewable energy, and market development. He has held leadership roles in top solar companies and recognized as a community builder passionate about sustainability. Now, Ms. Crystal Yip is the dedicated professional at the UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, and she has led initiatives including climate action, water resilience, and supply chain programs. And her work continues to support sustainable development efforts across Malaysia and Brunei. And last but not least, YB Jaziri Alkaf, who has served as a Senator and Member of Parliament, where he shaped policies focused on education and international relations, leaving impacts on his constituency and as well as the whole nation. Now, just to open up with a simple question for all the panelists here today, and to compare notes as well. The general question here is, in your view, is the country moving in the right direction? And will today's policy be sufficient to meet the needs of tomorrow? And I'll start with Dr. Hezri, if you could. Thank you.
Thank you, Zayana. Thank you, the organizers, for inviting climate governance. In fact, we are one of the supporting partners, so I should be thanking everybody who's involved in this conference. Just a quick one, Zayana. I think for many years, I used to say that the words are in the right place, but the actions are not. But a lot has happened in Malaysia in terms of, translating the words into action in the past, particularly the past 10 years since Paris. So, I'm an eternal optimist. I think the glass is half full.
Thank you. And we'll dissect a bit more of that later. To you, Ms. Crystal.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see Dr. Hezri again, an old friend of ours. Well, to your question, Zayana, I would say that Malaysia is heading towards the right direction. But the challenge here is, of course, the affordability and the accessibility as well. Not forgetting, of course, the SMEs or the micro enterprises and the startups as well. So this is my view for now. Yeah, thank you.
Wabi, what are your thoughts?
Assalamualaikum. Selamat petang. Terima kasih, Zayana. Thanks again for the invitation. It's an honor to share the stage with some very prominent experts in the industry. To me, I think as the national policy, kita ada Zero 2050. We've got, I think, the policies in place. We've got initiatives done by both government and private sectors. I think the question here is how fast is the speed of our implementation. Got all line, how fast is depending on our initiative. The initiatives has to be conducive at all levels of the society, not bukan saja governmental, SMEs, but the grassroots. So now, how fast we can go is the question that we should be asking. Masih.
Yep, and we hope to answer those questions today as well. Mr. Juice.
Okay, so, well, definitely we are heading towards the right direction. I have multiple hats here, so let me put aside the SME hat, because the SME hat will be saying that, oh, okay, where the business is, we'll grow, how fast the money shows us, right? But from a community and personal perspective, I think today, it's a very good chance for all of us to, number one, at least, get ourselves educated, be more aware of how important this is to us and also our future next generation. And the key word here, number two, is to collaborate with each other, collaborate with whether it's government or society or SMEs. And with that, we can definitely get to that direction faster.
Great, thank you. Maybe before we go ahead with all the other questions, maybe I can ask the floor as well. How many of you here think that at the pace of the economic growth we're going today is compromising the future of our youth? No one. So I guess we're at a good pace. And we just transition, maybe youth's future will not be compromised. And to Dr. Hezri, in the climate where economic growth is moving very fast and at the cost of maybe climate action as well, what compromises should Malaysia avoid at all cost?
Compromises or trade-off. Sorry, I don't have slides with me, but if you can imagine, a chart with 3 lines. One will be featuring the proxy indicator for social development, one for economy, one for the environment. So our poverty rate in Malaysia has gone down, significantly from the 1960s, from 40% to where it is now, less than 5%. And then the proxy indicator for economy, GDP per capita, has gone up, since independence till now. I think we're now about $11,500 US. So it's quite a feat, to be able to do that in just a few decades. And then the other proxy indicator is ecological footprint, which is unfortunately has grown concomitant with the GDP per capita. So 2 graphs going up, and So it's a bit challenging to say that we have had a balanced development because, if it's a balanced development, then the environment one should be pretty much stable as opposed to going up. So as a result of the degradation of the environment as a result of development since independence, we have 4 fragmented forests in Peninsular Malaysia, just to focus on Peninsular Malaysia. And what we shouldn't be sacrificing further is actually our water security. Because with this fragmented forest, our capacity, or the ecosystem capacity to provide water we are at that stage now. It's very challenging. 5 states, despite of having, we get about 2,900 millimeter of rainfall every year. But despite that, 5 states are actually considered water deficit states. And then if you project further into the next few decades, we're looking at, drought. There's an index of rainfall variability. So there are 4 states, Johor, Selangor, Pahang, and Kelantan will be states that are, will be facing more drought in the future. And these are also, we have granary areas, so food security is also at risk. Of course, Sabah is going to be the driest state moving forward, So water will be a central challenge for us moving forward.
Thank you. And I think it's a big concern as well because a lot of the industries that we're investing in will also be resource intensive, and this includes water as well. But as we've heard before, I think a lot of the companies are already looking towards all the different alternatives to ensure that I think our water resources are protected. Maybe then I could go to Ms. Crystal. If you could share me some of the global practices that could be brought locally in integrating sustainability into digital transformation strategies. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So basically, right now, I'm going to give an example, right, of the ASEAN countries. Let's take China, for example, right? What they have done is very, I would say, is very impressive. And why I say that is because what they have done is that they have actually implemented, cashless payments. Yes, all of us in Malaysia have that as well. But they're also integrating digital into their traffic management system as well. So I'm not sure if some of you have actually heard of this system that they have done on traffic management system. So they have actually GPS on the ambulances, attached to the ambulances. And what they do is actually coordinate it. So whenever they detect an emergency, per se, they can actually clear the pathway, and all the traffic lights that are heading towards the hospital road that they are supposed to head towards, they actually turn it to green. So they actually clear that pathway just so that the patients or the emergency patients can actually reach the hospitals faster. So this is just one example of how one of the ASEAN countries have actually, one of the best practices that they have actually implemented into their, to actually reach that timely treatment as well. So with that being said, also it have of course saved a lot of lives in that sense. And apologies if my voice is a bit shaky because the room is really cold. So yeah, really apologize for that. But this is one of the things that one of the ASEAN country has done. And locally as well, I will take TM for example, right? So earlier also, the data center from YTL, right? They have also done some green solutions to actually green their data centers. So the same thing goes for TM as well. So they have also expanded their connectivity as well as greening their data centers. And this is how these are some of the best practices, both globally and locally as well. So thank you,
Ms. Crystal. It's true, it is very cold and I'm shivering as well. But we've gotten perspective from UNGC, and now maybe to look at the industry itself, Mr. Johnson, if you could share maybe examples of how industry-led initiative can create both economic and environmental value. For society. Sorry, I missed the last part.
Okay, all right. So basically, I mean, today, right, in the industry, people are transitioning towards green renewable energy. And by just doing that alone, right, of course, companies needed more workforce. And by doing that, there's a lot of trainings and all going together. So for example, even in our companies, right, we are partnering with universities and vocational. And by doing that, we are able to create more jobs for the society. And that's from the company's perspective. And from the community perspective, which I'm very passionate about, I make sure that people are now collaborating with each other. So by doing that, at least we are able to see what is the problem that's happening right there in the market, and then able to come up with solution from a community's perspective to then be able to solve it. Because if we circle back into companies and SMEs, right, today a lot of industries are very reactive, okay? And that's a problem with all this AI coming in, because if you're reactive to only do something when the problem happens, then AI is going to take over your job, right? So today, we are also making sure that our employees and all, and the people are being trained with new data analytics capabilities and how to utilize AI as well to be able to spot problems before they're happening. And in the end, we all grow together.
And speaking of jobs, maybe then YB, if we could talk about the job shortage in the digital communication industry as a whole. And with the influx of data centers as well, we can anticipate challenges in ensuring that there are sufficient supply in the local talent. Maybe if you could give some pointers on that.
Terima kasih, Zayana. I mean, they were both right that it is cold. So my voice is shivering, not because only cold, but I'm also nervous because of this panel of experts. So, Zayana, apa tu? Okay, so basically having a pipeline of talent sustaining our growth. In what areas? In digitization, in AI, and so on and so forth. So the country has already a map of where we want to head and where we're heading, and the industries that needs to be focused on for this development. But the question is always, do we have the talent? The talent is always a major issues on any developing countries or any emerging economies. We have the talent, we have the intellectual supply of where we want to head. So always, again, when we talk about economic growth, kita always have to couple it with education approach. So we can always talk about what we want to do, but if we do not have the supply of these experts or talents or industry experts, then we have to import talent. So is that something that we want to be doing or something that we're trying to avoid? If we were trying to avoid, then our education system needs to be able to carry up our aspirations. Now the question is, how much do we want to focus on the education supply chain, the brain supply chain, and we are also looking into brain drain now. Again, then again, yeah, it's a question of training and education. When we talk about all this development, it's all about training and education, because if we do not have the platform to supply this, then we are looking into importing, we're getting policies that might not be sustainable for Malaysia's future development. So when it comes to approach to getting this heavy tech, heavy industries or high-tech industries up and running, the fundamental questions must be addressed. So that's why I think I very much applaud MIM and of course NKS for asking the right questions, and how do we supply this intellectual capacity to sustain now and into the future. I think at the moment it's a shock to the system that suddenly we are talking about AI. Now, where do we get the support? in terms of brain. When we talk about developing SMEs, we are also developing the brains. But how? Something that we need to be serious upon. It has to be driven by the industry. Unfortunately, I'm a policy maker, but it has to be driven by industry. Driven by ministry agencies might be too bureaucratical or be taking some time. So a third party industry should be NGOs or a community should some way provide this to talent and in an informal way. Of course, we've got an formal way education, informal way is equally important now. So it is coming together. We're talking about collaboration tadi. Now we have to upscale. We're not only talking about collaboration, we're talking about community of formal and informal supply chain of brain. Harap.
Thank you. Yep, very clear. And that's on, I guess, developing a new pool of talent to feed into our digital transformation, right? But I guess maybe to hear from Ms. Crystal or Mr. Johnson as well. We talk about developing a new pool, but what about those that are currently in the workforce? How do we reskill them or upskill them to ensure that they are able to also be included in this just transition? Ms. Crystal first?
So as what YB has also mentioned earlier, what is our role as NGOs in upskilling, right? So of course, here at UNGC, basically what we have also done is, we have actually engaged with all these large corporates to actually upskill their SMEs, their supply chain as well. So one of the initiatives that we have done is, I'm not sure if some of you have heard, Petronas has actually launched their supplier support program towards the end of last year. And that is how we have been involved in terms of, upskilling the supply chain, the SMEs especially. So embedding also integrating digital tools in this as well. So what they actually go through during this supplier program, or in short call it PSSP, they actually go through our ESG Start self-digital assessment tool first, to first measure what is their ESG maturity level. And then from there, that's when a critical skill is needed in terms of, analyzing your supplier data as to where your suppliers actually stand, right? Whether your suppliers are more towards the basic, intermediate, or advanced level. And from there, we will actually provide tailored support in terms of upskilling them based on their basic, intermediate, or advanced level as well. So it is very important to have that data analytical skills, but also translating them into practical, actionable steps as well. So this is why I say that having that that intelligence, like what YB mentioned earlier, having that intelligence to actually turn those data into something that is practical and also actionable. And this not only applies to Petronas, it goes across board as well to other companies. And this year also we've actually done with Prasarana, and it's currently ongoing as well. So these are some of the initiatives that you can actually blend digital tools or digitalization, as well as sustainability and upskilling in that sense as well. So let me just stop it here so that Johnson has a chance to speak as well.
Are you doing anything similar or completely different as well?
Yeah, similar. I can add on from two sides, the industry and also a community perspective. So shifting towards cleaner energy and also digitization, right? Which also means that today our engineers over in the industry cannot just just design, plan, and just go out there and build stuff. And then just like I mentioned just now, we are very reactive, waiting for something to happen, then only we come and, figure things out, right? So today, in our workforce, we are actually training them to also use, AI tools, so that at least the AI currently, it's mapping and also doing some predictive analysis. So that while we are even designing stuff or maintaining things, we at least know the pattern of how things is going to fail. And then from there, we are proactively working on how to be much better in that, right? So this is very much on the technical skill standpoint. However, today, we also know that AI is going to be coming in and going to take a lot of these jobs away. one thing that make us human and also make us thrive as humans is actually on the soft skills perspective, right? Today, working with a lot of our customers, we realize that customers want to get into ESG, and the stakeholder management is very important, which means our team now has to be trained more on project management skills and communication skills. So these are the things that, all this while we took it lightly, but more so this is more important from the industrial's perspective. And from a community's perspective, I echo what Ms. Crystal talked about. We now need to also make sure that the community themselves are self-learning and self-sustaining in terms of knowing what's coming and in terms of knowledge, right? Today, technologies world, everyone is doing this micro-filming, is it called it that way? No, those days we watch TV to learn, then after that it becomes YouTube, and now becomes seconds, like TikToks and all that, right? So in my initiative in Kaki Diawa and Kaki Repair, where I always make sure that community themselves are the one that spots the problem. So in the community, we actually encourage people to repair your own broken items rather than throwing them away. So what happened here is that you see a problem, no worries, just capture the problem, put it in the platform, and there are community members who come in to help out, to say that, hey, I have this problem before. This is how you diagnose it, this is how you repair it. And by doing so, at least everyone learns something new. And what's important behind it is then we also create this group where people can talk to each other, right? And from there, when they bring that skill set into work, into the society, they realize that it's not hard to ask for help. It's not hard to initiatively step in to give some advice. And that's what makes us human. And definitely, we can work alongside with AI and grow in this.
Thank you. And both of you have also mentioned digital tools, using digital tools. And maybe Dr. Hezri, if you could then talk a bit more about how all these tools, AI, big data, could be used to monitor and also improve the social impacts of our energy transition policies.
Yeah, before I say a bit about the technology side, just to latch on to the question about upskilling. Upskilling needs to happen at various levels, to have that ecosystem-wide impact to mainstream sustainability and also energy transition. So at Climate Governance Malaysia, which is a Malaysian chapter of the Climate Governance Initiative of the World Economic Forum, our objective is to upskill board members and also corporate leadership to integrate climate action into the core of business strategy and action. So a lot of master classes, we have summits, we have conferences, and more granular sessions with experts to enable that capacity building, if you like. And if I can also use my Bursa Malaysia hat, we have 1,056 listed companies in Malaysia now. And at the moment, 136 public listed companies are working very diligently to try and adopt the new National Sustainability Reporting Framework, which was launched last year with, there are two standards there, S1 and S2. S2 is the climate standards, and a lot of capacity building is actually needed to upskill the corporates. And we talk about the 136 public listed companies. They constitute about 80% of our market capitalization, And so these are the big cap, large cap, more than 2 billion market cap. Still, there are some of them are still struggling with even the basics of GHG emissions, data management, and also calculation scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So you have the board, upskilling. You have the public listed companies, and earlier this week I was with the ESG Association of Malaysia, which was I think constituted about a year ago, again to bring in SMEs into the fold, and UN Global Compact has about 300 members, So we have to have better, like YB mentioned, better partnership to have this network effect. Coming to your question about digital tools or technology in general, if you look at the ESG revolution, there are 4 pillars. The first one is data. The second one is values. The third one is the rules, and of course funds is equally important. So when it comes to data, I think we have seen spectacular growth in the past 10 years when it comes to data. And SOFD has actually created many innovation when it comes to traceability. Of course, AI-powered analysis now is used to for a lot of things, including for sustainability reporting. So what used to be, for a sustainability report to be generated, usually we need anywhere from 3 months to 5 months to get it prepared. But if you have the data now with AI-powered analysis or tools, it can be done within just 20 days, for instance. That has helped a lot for corporates to focus on mainstreaming sustainability. But because 80% of the time, particularly for listed companies, to mainstream sustainability, 80% of time is actually is consumed for reporting. So if you can cut that down, we can do other strategic action that will move the needle. So, it's very integral. Technology is very integral in sustainability.
Thank you, Dr. Hezri. And maybe if I could ask a follow-up question as well to you, in regards to, especially during your time in Bursa, would you say that digital tools could also help with greenwashing, in terms of preventing greenwashing itself?
Well, technically it should, but where we are at now is really to get everybody on a higher floor when it comes to their preparedness to report on sustainability. So last year, Bursa Malaysia launched centralized systems intelligence platform with a calculator, and it also have now the supply chain a component. It has a ESG rating component, and also sustainability reporting component. So once you have everybody on board with the data, which is a basic requirement, then that process of getting to credible data, which is assurance, will be the next step. And I think we're still at an early stage of this being mainstream, but I think it's happening in a structured, stepwise sequence that we are hoping. So it's a step-by-step process. But eventually it should get to the point where assurance is used in, AI is used in reporting assurance, so that will help a lot with greenwashing eventually.
Thank you, Dr. Hezri. Now, I guess we could look at it again from a bigger picture on green transition itself. Looking towards Sarawak, there's a lot of momentum right now in terms of moving towards a cleaner energy. I think as we've heard from the previous panel as well. Maybe then we could see, YB, if you could share how you see this shift in terms of how it contributes to the socio-economic gains, and especially maybe examples from Sarawak itself.
Terima kasih, Zayana. Yeah. Still nervous though, so bear with me. Okay, so basically, Sarawak, I'm from Kuching. So Sarawak has always is now and has been very aggressive in terms of putting the green agenda, the move. So 70% of our energy comes from renewable. I think His Excellency mentioned just now that overall Malaysia not considered sustainable yet, but if you take out Sarawak by itself, you are over 70%. 70% hydro, cascading, dam, and dam. So meaning that our source of electricity supply is already beyond sustainability. And that attracts a lot of companies, a lot of plants, manufacturing plants, that requires them to have sustainability electricity supply. So that's why it's conducive that you see Sarawak has to not only cheap energy, but sustainably sourced. Number one. But of course, beyond just hydro, beyond just LNG, we are looking into other alternative sources. I think Abang Jo, our Premier, did mention that at this point he may not look into nuclear, but I think other alternatives macam OTEC, ocean thermal. Because we are situated along the Khatulistiwa, so that gives us an advantage over countries which are not in the ring of Khatulistiwa. So that ocean thermal differentiation in terms of seawater temperature within here to the surface and below is substantial to create that energy lah, to turn that into energy. So that's another potential energy supply. We have identified around Miri area. That's a good. You need the depth as well for this technology, and of course in Sabah we have identified 2 or 3 tempat location offshore. So when we talk about Asian grid, again we can see that the potential energy source for ASEAN may be potentially from Sarawak. We have a roadmap of producing 30 gigawatt by the next 10-20 years. Now I think we are producing about 7, if I'm mistaken, achieving 10 very soon with the Bakun Dam, Paleh Dam. Bakun Dam is not fully operational. Once fully operational, we will do more capacity. I had the opportunity, Zayana, to bring in to solar manufacturing into Sarawak. But unfortunately, if you guys don't believe me, the supply of energy in Sarawak, because it's so cheap, it's so attractive. All the manufacturers from Japan, from Europe, from China, of course, is very dah harga kan kita punya energy. But we had to turn them down because it's just there's not enough energy supply. So that's why there's a huge opportunity for Sarawak to play that role as the major energy hub for ASEAN. That's why the ASEAN grid is very crucial plan for Sarawak. Kan? Then I think, Doctor, you mentioned about water. Sarawak, we have very abundance of water. Dan sungai dengan itunya. So there is an overwhelming supply of hydrogen, hydropowered. And of course, beyond that, we've got hydrogen cell now coming up because again, coming back, we have just abundance of water. Again, bukan saja electricity, but hydrogen cell and so on and so forth. So look into Sarawak. I see banyak industry players here. Look into Sarawak. The potential of Sarawak is too huge to ignore.
Thank you, Ivy.
I'm here to talk to every one of you.
Thank you, Ivy. All right, we have about just a few minutes left. Not too short, but we'll take some questions from the floor. Well, maybe I can get the organizer to help with the Slido app, please. But please introduce yourself, your organization, and who you'd like to pose your question to the panelists. Yes, sir, the grey blazer. While we wait for the question, maybe again, if I could get help from the organizer.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, my name is Uy from Falcon Crest. I have 2 questions. One is a funny one, and the other one is a serious one. The first question is, a lot of the people in the panel, they all complain about the cold. The aircon is too strong. Yet nobody went to the general manager and complained and asked him to turn it down. Why? It's no use just talking. You need to do action. You need to tell the engineer or the general manager, your aircon is too cold. You need to please turn it down. That's action, right? Second question is about the use of public transport as a contribution to carbon emission. I was told by the mayor of KL that currently 70 to 80% of the population use private transport. Only 20 to 30% use public transport. So she would like to reverse that. So the question is then, if the public transport is inefficient, then how can that work? So the Prasarana people have to work hard to make sure that all the MRT, LRT, and the bus services are integrated, like Singapore, for example, so that more people are encouraged to take public transport and use less private. So the question to the panel is that, who is taking the action to change this? Thank you.
Thank you. Who's taking the action? Let's gather maybe one more question before we proceed to the answers, just to let it brew a bit more. Anyone? Yes, madam.
Assalamualaikum, YB Jaziri. Thank you for sharing with us that Sarawak has identified nuclear. It's not necessary for the state because you have a high hydropower source. However, I saw in the news that Abang Jo had mentioned that although the federal government and now Sabah are interested in nuclear power, especially nuclear fission, Sarawak, although not interested in fission, but may consider nuclear fusion. So may I inquire about this potential in Sarawak? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Maybe given that Dr. Hezri, you have an extensive background on policy, maybe you could answer the first question on who should take the action, and maybe also who should regulate as well.
The first question, why is nobody complaining? Because I think on behalf of the panelists, I can say that we can't complain because we are here on the panel. But I think you pointed out, your first question and your second question rightly pointed out to the issue of behavioral change, which is the tough part, you know. There was a study done by WWF Malaysia, which I'm a trustee. That was way back in 2009. It's called Environmental Citizenship. And in that study of 6,000 respondents, when it comes to conservation issues like should we protect the orangutan, should we protect tigers, 80% of the respondents answered correctly that yes, we should, because it's easy, because they're cuddly and they're easy for people to connect with. But when it comes to a question that involves a little bit of thinking on the cause and effect of your action, for instance, what is the cause of floods? Less than 40% of the respondents answered correctly, pointing to the fact that people don't understand that what they do have an impact on the environment. So education needs to be tailored towards that. And I think education, like I mentioned earlier, has to happen at all levels, from board to corporate, to the C-suites, to the management, down to everybody. And I think at on the corporate side, there must be incentive system, to encourage the employees to respond or to act in a more responsible way. I think we are looking into this into the future. How do you do that? For instance, if you incentivize people for driving electric vehicle, and suddenly your electricity bill goes up, so how do you balance that? So there needs to be a clever way of incentivizing your employees. So I think education has to happen. I think there are a lot of actions in the past, but I think again, it begs the question of how do we connect the dots of the different initiatives done by different groups.
I think that's a really good answer, and I think you rightly pointed out as well how flood is also impacted by human behavior as well, and I think a lot of the industries also play a role in ensuring that they adapt and be able to mitigate as well. Now on to the second question on the potential for Sarawak. YB, if you could share.
Terima kasih Zayana, terima kasih with the questions. I think maybe I can answer part of the first question tadi. We did tell the management to lower, but the question now is why is it not? So actions were taken, but there's no result. Okay, maybe I can offer my small answer skit. I'm an architect by profession. The aircon is centralized. So if you tutup sini, next door will come and complain. Maybe, I don't know. So that's why again, when you design a building, design an environment, design a society, this is the indication that we need so that we can get the best out of it. Okay, maybe, I'm not sure. Coming back to the second question, of course the vastness of state of Sarawak ni, huge. We did look into modular nuclear rather than one central, kan? Modular nuclear meaning that it's a container size that could probably be dropped into any locations. Pendalaman, looking at pendalaman into Sarawak. That also satu. Number dua is offshore nuclear plant. Is not situated on land, but because it is smaller, then you can put it offshore. Cooling is easier, and so you don't need too much of build up. So not a full scale lah, basically full scale nuclear power plant. So those are the options that we could be able to put on the table. Now we've spoken to few I think the Japanese, I think the Russians, and of course the Chinese model. So those are the options for nuclear pathway lah, for the energy source, power source. But at the moment, I'm not sure how serious the state are at the moment, because again, there are plans to build solar, on water solar, kan? Kat Bakun Dam tu, I think 70% will be covered by solar panels. I think that's been ongoing now at the moment. Of course, we've got Bakun Dam not at full capacity at the moment, and I think there's cascading dam now they're looking into building. So it's not a full-fledged dam. It's just cascading dam that has less impact to the environment. So those are the options for Sarawak. Fundamentally, we want to keep the tariff low because it's attractive, bring in industries into Sarawak, build up the whole ecosystem. And yeah, that's the pathway for Sarawak at the moment, Doctor. But of course, nuclear tak boleh lari lah. I mean, again, nuclear is very potential, clean, sustainable, very safe. I think it's very safe, and less impact to the environment in many ways. So, but when we, dalam kepala kita, when we talk about nuclear, it's something taboo maybe in Malaysia, but potentially it's huge. Produce lots of gigawatt for less footprint.
Thank you, YB. There's also questions from Slido. I'll read out maybe one first. How can Malaysians ensure laws and regulations are enforced? Maybe I could tweak the question slightly for Ms. Crystal on the perspective of companies as well, on how you think they'll be able to, I guess, comply as well to all these different regulations that are already in place.
Question is on compliance, right? How can companies actually comply? Well, IFRS S2 is already definitely something that PLCs have to comply to, right? It's already mandated by Bursa. So that's one thing on compliance. But the question also is, how can these companies really move towards the compliance direction? It is important, yes. Compliance does matter when it comes to pushing a sustainability agenda, for example, right? You need to have that push, or you need to have that whip in order to whip the companies in shape to actually comply. But can you actually comply? That's also another question, right? So a lot of companies are actually struggling when it comes to, the IFRS, the S2 reporting especially. And this is how, our organization, UNGC, and also Bursa is doing their very best to actually, help companies, upskill them in terms of their S2 capacity in terms of the reporting standards. But at the end of the day, compliance isn't the only thing that actually pushes the sustainability agenda, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to whether you want to actually push it or not. So it comes down to the people itself as well. Having that skill set or having that internal push, that self-driven push that you need in order to push that towards the end goal, for example, is something that is also important. Because if you don't have that, the want to actually push something in the first place, you're just, doing a checkbox exercise again, per se. So it's really all about, coming down back to the people. Ultimately, it is for the people that you're doing it for as well. Hope that answers.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that everything is for the people. Could lead to also the second question. Many countries, including Malaysia, are struggling to stay on track with their Paris Agreement pledges. What do you see as the biggest barriers to actual implementation? And a lot of this agreement in the Paris Agreement itself is to protect the society as well. So maybe I'm not sure who would be the best person to take up this answer, but YB, please.
I think, I read the same question today. Paris Agreement. So I was in Tokyo, I think, last year. I was in summer. So the aircon was switched off. So it was hot in the room. So I asked the reception, reception kata, in summer we don't switch on the aircon. So it was really stuffy in the room. So I had to move to another room which has openable windows. Some windows are not open. So that is their commitment for Paris Agreement, Japan. Again, macam ni, I don't think they will ever do it. Maintain the temperature. Oh, wow, we did some change. Thank you, Zayana. Yeah. Question is, struggling to on track. This barrier. Yeah, I think it comes back to what Dr. Katati mentioned also just now. No, it's in us, but I think there must be some push on why we want to be on board in this agenda. One particular item that I always come across is economy. It comes down to dollars and cents. If it's the option of going green is cheaper, then it's an easier choice. Not say it's consciously easier choice, but economically it's just, of course. Then again, coming back to Sarawak, you come back to Sarawak, the mean salary or mean income of people in Sarawak maybe it's not as high as other states or other cities. So again, why do they need to push for this agenda? It comes down to dollar and cents. That's number one. Number two is, how can this the sustainable green agenda become the driver of change? Meaning that by participating, you are able to build more income for your household, individual. I had the opportunity to work with a startup in Nigeria, West Africa, on building the largest battery as a service EV vehicle for their logistics. So meaning at the moment they've got about 3 million tuk-tuk. They pakai tuk-tuk, three-wheeler, for all their logistics, for transport, barang-barang dan belah. Now the transition between ICE, combustion engine, into EV can save the riders 30% of daily expenses. Yeah, because in Nigeria, in West Africa, the rental is daily. Bukan macam kita monthly. Daily. So each day tu, if able to transit, tak pakai ICE, tuk-tuk, pakai EV tuk-tuk, 30% saving. Number one. Second is able to give them insurance. Insurance, so they get health, family, so forth. So it's just a simple, in Nigeria it works quite well. That transition, if we're able to have a similar initiative in Malaysia, the natural transition is faster. Again, you're talking about speed of transition, voluntary, and at the same time, it will give better back into environment, health, and so on. So in some ways, maybe,
Yep, thank you, YB. And I think the rest of the panelists have also answered the questions, all the other questions. Maybe we can get Mr. Johnson to come in with his closing remarks then.
Oh, okay, Ken. I think, yeah, my closing remark will be also a jab to answer just now Mr. Ui's question, I think, on like why aren't people taking the public transport, right? I think it can be an analogy for what we are doing here as well, right? Because end of the day, if on the topic of public transport, we need to ask ourselves as a individual, as a rakyat, as a community, right? Are we in the first place taking the public transport? Because, of course, if you are talking about businesses and SME, they'll be saying that, oh, let's see what's the policy say lah. Policy will create more support or incentive, then we will create more of this to create more transport, right? But at the same time, policymaker will be like, okay, let's hear it from the rakyat, let's hear it from people. People actually wanting to use that, right? So it becomes a whole chicken and egg thing. And today, for today's topic, it's still the same thing as well, right? Businesses and SMEs will be saying like, oh, let's see what the policy is, then I'm going to transition into energy, right? Green energy and so on and so forth. At the same time, people will be like, oh, there's no place for me, what? So I'll just wait for the businesses to come out with cheaper solar or something, or hydrogen or EV cars, then only I start adopting. But at the same time, maybe us today, all of us here as individuals should ask ourselves, what are we doing in terms of this, right? Are we also part of this ecosystem to even educate other people the importance of all this? Because by doing that, then at least the movement is there, then it will move the SMEs, the industry, you'll move the policy makers to create something for all of us, right? Because if we were to want to use another example of how this happened, 10, 20 years ago, this is the same thing for internet, right? Industry will be like, oh, that's why internet is so expensive because, you know, not a lot of users. And then policy, you know, the tax and all that, we have been charged so high. But then because now people understand that important internet and, you know, telecommunication is so important in their life, everyone got into it, so the industry able to lower down the prices, you know, and then policies come in to help out with incentive and so on and so forth. I think as a closing remarks, okay, all of us here have a part to play. And yeah, let's create a better ecosystem for digital transition and also for the social as well.
Thank you. You concluded it very well. I don't think I have to do anything else. So I think we've covered a range of issues beyond just the topic itself. And I hope everyone can go back and ponder a bit more on whatever that we've discussed today. Now I'll leave it back to Mr. MC.